We had a lively special session. There may not have been exactly 80 participants, I may be exaggerating that. There may have been 79. We had quite a few interesting discussions going on. The objectives are listed here: to think critically of the socio-cultural, philosophical and psychological underpinnings of ecosystem services theory and its approach. To draw out some of the intrinsic limitations to the ecosystem services evaluation approach with relevance to planning and management, and to explore ways of representing different human-nature relationships in the ecosystem services approach. That's more meant different ways of representing these relationships between humans and nature. Lots of stuff came out. We worked, we presented first, all of the four speakers, and after that we had a lively working session together. So the conclusions are too much to cover them all, but we've highlighted some that we wanted to share with you, because in fact we got, rather than answers, we got more questions. So the social, spiritual and cultural values are not services, people said. They are values bestowed on nature. From nature, its intrinsic value, we went to biodiversity. We spoke about genetic diversity, and now we're talking of ecosystem services, and pretty soon only total economic value. We came also to the conclusion that narrowing ecosystem complexity to a single service has technical and ethical implications, and basically also for the way that we relate to nature. Is that really as consumers? We also looked at the dynamics and the complexity of the ecological systems, and we realized that we're really working with socio-ecological systems. So how do resilience and thresholds come into this? And we've seen it in other presentations earlier today that this is really difficult stuff to deal with. It is very complicated. So by the time that we establish this whole sets of values and this very new way of working, we will have lost our tropical forest to deforestation. And there was generally also a feeling that, all right, we've got the mechanics, we can start working, but if we haven't got the mindset right, if we're not operating to reform business and markets, if we're not pursuing the right goals for conservation, we're still going to lose our forests and our other resources just the same. So monetizing was hard to prioritize, but basically value is not always about pricing. I mean, we've seen that all along. It's been resonating throughout the conference. But then how can you raise a profile of non-monetary values when you are talking to decision makers? And how can you create these participatory processes? As you see here, that was also one of the key issues. Making sure that all the stakeholders are around the table and that they can participate. But again, this issue surfaced where this society based on money, production, consumption and competition might be against nature. And I'm saying this because this comes out of the discussions, and people were really happy to be discussing these things in a little bit more depth. Is that it? 1 minute? Okay. Right. So on the equity side of things, that also reflects back, really. This production, exchange and consumption of ecosystem services contributes to reproducing existing inequalities. The rich are rich, the poor are poor, and the market regulates where these power imbalances go. So as another issue that came out was the 340 indigenous cultures on the world that own about 20% of the Earth's surface and 80% of the Earth's biodiversity. It seems that other manners to conserve biodiversity could be found rather than imposing market mechanisms. And how do we ensure that all stakeholders are involved? Came out a lot, really. I'll leave it at this, and I wanted to briefly mention that we're working towards a little output, a think piece or a letter to perhaps the new journal, so it will all come back. It's really meant to make people think creatively, and we'll be sharing also amongst yourselves what comes out of it, so you can have your say as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker, Louisa Willman on
Special session B.
True. Well, we organized a special session slightly different than the other sessions here at the conference because we had quite a concrete question. Because we were focusing on the role of conservation strategies like protected areas and payment schemes like RED and their influence on safeguarding ecosystem services and what it actually means for local livelihood. So that was the theme of our discussion session, I would rather call it. We did this together, like the JRC did this together with the IUCN, and we had 3 different speakers to trigger the discussion, so to say. I didn't prepare a presentation, so this is our introduction of the session. But this was our goal, just to see what the potentials and the conflicts are of conservation strategies on ecosystem services and local livelihood. We first had a presentation. We first discussed, like, okay, so if we're talking about protected areas, how are they actually being selected currently? What indicators are being used to assign an area to conserve biodiversity? And now with the new global conservation strategy, like the target for 2020, we're quite ambitious. We want to have 70% of our terrestrial area covered by protected areas. So what does this actually mean if we're going to establish or enlarge protected areas? What does this mean for biodiversity and ecosystem services? We have seen some examples from South Africa that actually, if you aim at biodiversity conservation, you safeguard quite some ecosystem services, but they are all very much related to regulation, not very much that provisioning service. The second presentation was more showed that if you would establish a protected area, you actually change the landscape, and therefore you're changing the capacity of your landscape to provide those services. And in this presentation we indicated quite roughly who are the beneficiaries that actually use those services. So who actually will be affected, who will win, who will lose when a new protected area was established. A third presentation actually looked at from a more philosophical point of view of is it actually, if we're talking about pests, and if we're talking about beneficiaries, I have to say that we mostly focused in this session on Africa. So you're talking about, well, not about Europe and not about the US, but most of the presentations were about. So if we're talking about, sorry, I have to go back to this. So he asked the question if payments for environmental services or ecosystem services, like also the RED scheme, if this is really contributing to an improved livelihood, because our speaker actually said that we have to move away from those 2 goals with PES, that you want to have poverty alleviation and you want to protect the environment. He had the idea that those 2 things should be separated because of medical ethical issues there. These were the inputs to our discussion, because we spent most of the time actually discussing 2 different things: whether protected areas are actually the solution of safeguarding ecosystem services, and if the PES and the RED strategies will actually contribute to livelihoods. The main outcome was so the main outcome was that the protected areas, yes, they are a way to go. Very much depends on the location. Very much depends on the protected status. What does it mean? Because protection is not necessarily like excluding people for entering a specific area, and also depends very much on the benefits sharing of a protected area and the surroundings, where people actually very much contribute to the success of a protected area. From the pest schemes, so if also a conservation strategy will contribute to an improved livelihood, we decided, or the audience were kind of convinced that yes, it contributes, but don't take it from the same resources as poverty reduction, so that you still aim at the 2 different separate goals. And but the big question was there, who should be paid? That's actually the outcome of that discussion.
Thank you.
I move.
Okay, special session C.
No. No, it's not picture that I want to show you. Yes. Okay, so my name is Marie Van Douane, and together with Estelle and Angelique from the Belgium Biodiversity Platform, we organized a special session which was about networking the knowledge on biodiversity and ecosystem services in Europe. The main purpose of our session was to present a new EU project which is called Biodiversity Knowledge, and to get feedback from the participants. So Biodiversity Knowledge, the main purpose is to develop and test a prototype of network of knowledge to inform in policy making and economic actors in the field of biodiversity and ecosystem services. So first of all, what is a network of knowledge? Quickly, so it's a concept that has been designed by the EPBRS in 2009, and the idea behind is to bring together existing organizations and processes in a broad and flexible way, and in order to improve the science policy interface. So during this session we took 20 minutes to present our prototype, so unfortunately I don't have time to show you the prototype. But basically, this prototype includes 3 types of actors: the knowledge holders, who are basically any person or institution who hold knowledge on biodiversity and ecosystem services and who are willing to share this knowledge and then become providers. Then on the other side, there is knowledge users, who are basically any person or institution who requests knowledge in order to improve the biodiversity management. And between there will be a knowledge interface composed of a knowledge coordinating body, in a bit in the same way of the IPBES is thinking of, and a secretariat. So due to the nature of our session, it's difficult for me to give you feedback, as you will need the prototype under your eyes. But it's easy to go to our website. Within a month, we will have made 3 more workshops in order to get consultation of the broader community in biodiversity. And then we will upload this prototype on our website on biodiversityknowledge.eu, together with a form that everybody could be able to upload and to give us feedback on this prototype. So the idea is to get as many people as possible to give us feedback to fit the biodiversity community. And if you want to know more on when this prototype will be uploaded, you can register to our newsletter. So just note this newsletter at biodiversityknowledge.eu, or give me your email address and I will add this to our email list. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Ik dacht dat jij hem had overgezet. Dat staat hier al tussen. Ja? Ja, volgens mij dat is zelfs goed. Hello, I'm Dieter van den Broek. I feel a little bit as Houston Bolt. Normally I do this talk in 20 minutes, now 5, so I have to sprint through it. 3, even faster, new world record. No, what we did is during our workshop, we took all the people and put them on this small neutrino, and we flew back in time. I can say it was really difficult to put them all on that little thing, but we flew back in time and we told the story what we what we did in South Africa, where we combined the ecosystem services approach. We changed it a little bit around, but it's the same idea, and how we combine it with the social technology, what is made in business and what is used to bring people together and connect them to something, to a deeper purpose of life. The same theory has been said, the person of ISGN wants to use now as well. So we combine these two theories together, and we guided the stakeholders through a process. I think the main importance what we realized during the process is that we need to listen to the stakeholders, what are their needs, and then approach them with how can we help with biodiversity and ecosystem service to achieve their objective, and not do it the way around, that we go and tell them how important biodiversity is for us, but not for them. So that's what we changed around. And we worked 4 years, we brought scientists in, and what we defined, science can play a big role in this kind of processes in 4 or 5 ways. The first, we need to collect data to enter the system. What is the system? Who are your stakeholders? How can we engage with the stakeholders? The second part of the research can be the intention of the research, be more about building trust. Is go to the stakeholders and really listen to them. Don't go with your own agenda. Really listen to them, that we can build trust with them and can really understand them. The third intention of research I call is create a crack in the system. And I think I compare it when we want to change the system in a profound way. We're standing in a glass building and we need to find the window we want to crack, what will have the most effect, and we only have one stone. On the moment the stone hits the window, people create a profound moment that they start realizing they're part of the system and they need to change. And science can help with that, because we can bring in the data and work with the stakeholders together to learn together with them. So that's what we did for years. And during the workshop, synchronicity moment or not, after the workshop I went to my email and I got this amazing email I found. I got goosebumps of the email. I don't know, I can portray it to you. But we took the farmers to a knowledge exchange, we put them in a bus, we drove them 1,000 kilometers out of their area, total uncomfortable for them, and we showed them another area. And after they came back and they sat down together and came up with their new vision of life, their new vision of their area. And when you read, I hope you can read Afrikaans. Oh, I need the microphone. But on the above they say they want to organize a company and they want to start an NGO called the Biodiversity Conservation Initiative. This is written by farmers, not by me. The other thing is they want to have a good connection with their land, between their land and the people who live on the land. And I think when you look at point 5, is they want a new economical model for land, agritourism, ecosystem services, and they want to put their land in contractual agreement with conservationists or with the government to sign that off. And that's the process we did, and out of our project, out our process mainly came this, is that people really come together. I think it's about social capital, and that was our conference about, or our session.